The twin suns of Theron IV hung heavy above the city of Aelvara, throwing long orange shadows across the crowded bazaar. Dust swirled through the air, catching on the metallic scales of alien merchants and the rough uniforms of traders. Ships roared overhead, shaking the stalls that lined the streets. Among the noise and movement, a small alien girl pushed through the crowd, clutching a worn cloth bag to her chest. Her skin shimmered faintly silver, her hair like strands of pale glass. The people around her ignored her. Some turned away in disgust. Others laughed. She was clearly poor, her clothes torn and her feet bare against the hot street metal. "Please," she whispered, holding out a small wooden figure. "Please buy my toy. I need money for my mother's medicine." No one stopped. The crowd flowed past her like a river around a stone. She tried again. "Just a few credits, please. It's all I have." A merchant sneered, kicking dust toward her. "Get away, gutter child. No one wants your trash." The girl's hands trembled. She looked down at the small toy in her palm, a carved bird with chipped wings made of old starship wood. It was one of her favorites. Her mother used to carve them for her when times were better before the sickness came. Tears burned her eyes, but she blinked them away. She couldn't cry here. She had to be strong. Then a voice came from behind her, calm, human, and strange among the alien sounds. "How much for the bird?" The girl turned. Standing there was a human man, tall, with worn clothes and tired eyes. He carried a toolkit on his belt and smelled faintly of machine oil. His name was Ethan Cole, a mechanic from the human colony orbiting Theron IV. He had come down to the city for ship parts, not for charity, but when he saw the little alien girl's face, the fear, the desperation, something in his chest twisted. She looked up at him, confused. You want to buy it?" Ethan nodded. "Sure. Everyone needs a little good luck charm." He handed her a few galactic credits, more than the toy was worth. The girl stared at the glowing chips in disbelief. Her lower lip trembled. "Thank you," she whispered. "You don't know how much this means." He smiled faintly. "It's all right. What's your name, kid?" She hesitated. "Lyra." "Well, Lyra," Ethan said, pocketing the toy carefully. "You keep yourself safe, all right?" But before she could answer, the air shifted. Ethan felt it, a tension spreading through the crowd. The noise of the market dimmed as several armored enforcers stepped into the square. Their black suits bore the crest of the Theron Authority, the planetary police. They moved slowly, scanning faces. One of them raised a small device that emitted a soft beeping. Lyra's eyes went wide with panic. She clutched her bag tighter and whispered, "Please." "They can't see me." Ethan frowned. "Why? Who are they?" She shook her head violently. "Please, human, don't let them find me. I beg you." Something in her voice and a pure terror made Ethan act before he could think. He grabbed her small hand. "Come on." They slipped between the stalls just as the enforcers reached the spot where she had been standing. Ethan led her through narrow alleys, past steam vents and old metal pipes, until they reached the quieter side of the port district. Finally, when they stopped behind a stack of cargo crates, the girl gasped for air. "Why are they after you?" he asked. She hesitated, staring at the ground. "Because of what I carry." Ethan looked at her worn bag. "What's inside?" Lyra opened it slowly. Inside were small toys carved from wood and metal. Birds, stars, tiny animals. And one glowing blue crystal, faint and pulsing like a heartbeat. Ethan frowned. "That's not just a trinket, is it?" She shook her head. "It's medicine. For my mother. She's dying. This is the only thing that can save her." He looked closer. The crystal was like nothing he had ever seen. Not natural, not alien. The energy signature coming off it made the air hum softly. It was human technology. Something advanced, rare, and very illegal here. "Where did you get this?" he asked quietly. "My mother worked for humans once, long ago. She took this when she fell ill." Her voice broke. "The authority says it's forbidden. They say it belongs to the humans and that it's dangerous. But it's the only cure." Ethan sighed, rubbing his forehead. "If they catch you with this, they'll lock you up." "Or worse, I know," she said softly. "That's why I was selling my toys. I thought maybe I could buy real medicine. But it's too late now." She hugged the bag close, her silver eyes shimmering with tears. "Please, human. Don't tell anyone." Ethan looked around the alley. He could hear the enforcers still searching the market. He had no reason to get involved, no reason to risk himself for a stranger. But he couldn't just walk away. Not when the girl reminded him of his little sister, who had died years ago on Mars from a sickness no one could afford to treat. He sighed again. All right, Lyra, you can stay in my workshop tonight. It's safer there. Her eyes widened. You would help me? Just for the night, he said. After that, we'll figure something out. She nodded quickly, relief flooding her face. They moved through the industrial district as the suns dipped below the horizon. The streets grew colder, quieter. Neon lights flickered across steel walls. Lyra stayed close to Ethan, clutching her bag. His workshop sat at the edge of the port, a messy, dim place filled with broken drones, old engines, and glowing parts. When he unlocked the door, the smell of metal and oil rushed out. Make yourself at home, he said awkwardly. It's not much, but it's warm. Lyra stepped inside carefully, her small feet tapping against the metal floor. She looked around at the clutter of human tools and half-built machines with wide eyes. You fix ships? She asked. Yeah, mostly cargo haulers. Sometimes people bring me junk to repair. She smiled faintly. It smells like my mother's lab used to. Ethan paused. Your mother was a scientist? She was, Lyra said softly. Before the sickness. He saw the way her shoulders sank when she said it. Ethan poured her a cup of warm synth tea from his generator and handed it to her. Here, drink this. She took it carefully, holding it with both hands. You're kind human, most people here. They look at me like I'm dirt. Ethan shrugged. You're just a kid trying to help your mom. Nothing wrong with that. She smiled a little, her eyes glimmering in the dim light. For a moment it was peaceful. The hum of machinery filled the silence, steady and calm. Then a loud clang echoed outside. Metal boots on the street. Lyra froze, her cup trembling. Ethan turned off the lights and peeked through the window. 2 enforcers were standing near the entrance, scanning buildings. One of them held a thermal tracker. They're close, she whispered. Ethan moved quickly. Basement hatch under the table, go. Lyra crawled down into the dark space below, clutching her bag. Ethan closed the hatch just as the door banged open. The enforcers stepped inside, weapons ready. Human mechanic, one barked. We are looking for an alien child. Silver skin. Have you seen her? Ethan wiped his hands on a rag and kept his tone calm. You think I have time for kids? Look around. I'm busy fixing engines. The taller enforcer scanned the room with a small device. The tracker blinked, then went dark, blocked by the heavy metal floor. After a tense moment, the officer grunted. If you see her, report immediately. She's carrying stolen property. Yeah, Ethan said. Sure thing. When they left, Ethan waited until their footsteps faded away before opening the hatch. Lyra climbed out, shaking. I'm sorry, she whispered. You could have been killed, he shrugged. Wouldn't be the first time. She looked at him with new eyes, not fear now, but gratitude. Why are you helping me, human? Ethan sat back on the stool, sighing. Because I've seen what happens when no one helps. Lyra clutched the glowing crystal again, the soft light reflecting in her tears. You're different from the others, he smirked. Yeah, I've been told that. Outside, the night deepened. The enforcers continued their search, unaware that their target now hid in the last place they'd ever look, a human mechanics workshop. Lyra curled up in a corner, her head resting against the wall. The faint hum of machines lulled her into sleep. Ethan looked at the toy bird he'd bought earlier, the little wooden carving sitting on his table. He turned it over in his hands, wondering how a simple thing like this had pulled him into a storm he didn't understand. He set it down beside his tools and glanced toward the sleeping girl. Somewhere deep inside, he already knew this was no ordinary child, and that glowing crystal she carried would change both their lives forever. The morning light of Thyron 4 crept through the cracks in Ethan's workshop. Faint beams of pale orange sunlight danced over tools, engines, and broken drones. The smell of metal and dust filled the air. Ethan was already awake, sitting at his workbench. His eyes were tired, his hands still stained with grease. He hadn't slept much. The image of the little alien girl hiding under his floorboards kept replaying in his mind. She was still asleep, curled up in a blanket he had given her. Her small face looked peaceful now, but even in sleep she clutched her cloth bag tight as if afraid someone might steal it. Ethan sighed and rubbed his temples. What did I just get myself into? He muttered. Outside, the city was waking up. The distant rumble of ships filled the air again. Somewhere in the distance, loudspeakers blared an announcement from the Thyran Authority. Attention, citizens. A silver-skinned miner has stolen restricted technology. Anyone with information must report immediately. Harboring her is a crime punishable by death. Ethan frowned. The voice echoed through the metallic streets. He glanced toward Lyra. She stirred slightly but didn't wake. He stood and walked to the door, peeking outside. Enforcers were patrolling again, scanning alleys and rooftops. The whole city seemed on edge. When he turned back, he found Lyra sitting up, blinking sleep from her eyes. "Morning," he said softly. "You hungry?" She nodded shyly. He handed her a ration bar and poured her a cup of warm synth tea. She took it carefully, whispering, "Thank you, human." "Name's Ethan," he said, sitting down across from her. "And you can stop calling me human, makes me feel like a machine." Lyra smiled faintly. "All right, Ethan." For a few minutes they ate in silence. Then Ethan leaned forward. "You need to tell me what that crystal really is. Because whatever it is, the whole authority is looking for it." Lyra looked down at her bag. Her hands trembled slightly. "I didn't steal it," she whispered. "It was my mother's. She said it could save her." Ethan waited, saying nothing. She opened the bag and pulled out the glowing blue crystal. It pulsed faintly, like it had its own heartbeat. The light reflected on her silver skin. "My mother was a scientist," she began softly. "Before I was born, she worked with humans in a lab near the upper docks. They studied life energy, the kind that can heal living cells. Humans made these crystals. They said they could cure diseases that even our medicine couldn't." Ethan frowned. "I've heard rumors about that. Bioreactive nanocores. The military tried to build them, but the project was shut down. Too dangerous," Lyra nodded. "Yes, the humans stopped, but the authority didn't. They wanted it for war. My mother hid one crystal when she found out they would use it to kill instead of heal." Ethan leaned closer. "And now they think you have it." She nodded again. "My mother fell sick after she stole it. Her body started failing. The doctors refused to help her because of what she did. So I tried to sell my toys to buy medicine. But the authority found out I still had this." Her voice broke. "They said they would take it back, and her life too." Ethan looked at the crystal again. The glow was soft but deep, alive somehow. It wasn't just energy. It felt like consciousness. "You said it's human-made," he murmured. "Then maybe I can fix it. Maybe I can make it work." Her eyes widened with sudden hope. "You can?" "I can try," he said. "I've worked with human tech before. But I'll need tools and power. This thing looks like it's been damaged." Lyra's hope flickered like the light of the crystal. "Please, Ethan, if it can save her, I'll do anything." Ethan nodded slowly. "All right. But we need to move. The enforcers will sweep this area soon." By afternoon, they had packed what little Ethan owned. A small generator, a toolkit, and his worn plasma pistol. Lyra carried her bag close to her chest. They slipped through the back alleys, moving toward the outer zone of the city, where the abandoned research labs lay hidden among old factories. The streets were dangerous now. Hover drones floated overhead, scanning for heat signatures. Posters with Lyra's face flashed on digital boards. "Wanted for theft of restricted technology. Reward 10,000 credits." Ethan cursed under his breath. "They're desperate to find you." Lyra's voice trembled. "Maybe I should go. If they catch you, they'll kill you too." He looked at her. "Kid, it's too late for that. We're in this together now." She stared at him, confused, touched, and scared all at once. Why are you helping me? You don't even know me." Ethan didn't answer at first. He remembered a small hospital on Mars long ago. His little sister coughing on a bed while he begged for medicine they couldn't afford. He remembered watching her fade away as the machines beeped slower and slower. He finally said quietly, "Because once no one helped my sister. I won't let that happen again." Lyra said nothing, but her eyes softened and she walked closer beside him as they disappeared into the shadows of the city. They reached the edge of the industrial sector by nightfall. The sky was a deep violet now, scattered with the lights of passing ships. A cold wind blew through the ruins. Ethan led her into an abandoned factory that used to make drone parts. Inside, the floor was cracked and the walls were covered in rust. He found a small maintenance room that still had power. "Stay here," he said. "I'll set up the generator." Lyra nodded and sat near the corner, hugging her knees. Her eyes followed him as he worked. connecting wires, testing circuits, and scanning the crystal with his handheld analyzer. After a few minutes, the device beeped. Ethan's face tightened. "This thing is unstable," he muttered. "The energy inside is decaying. If we don't stabilize it soon, it'll die." Lyra's voice shook. "And then, she'll die too." He looked at her. At the fear in her small face, the dirt on her hands, the hope she was still clinging to. "We'll figure something out," he said firmly. Suddenly there was a sound, faint, metallic. A drone's wings. Ethan's head snapped up. "They found us." Lyra gasped as a bright light flashed through a broken window. A search drone hovered outside, scanning the building. Ethan grabbed his blaster and fired. The shot hit the drone, sending it crashing to the ground in a burst of sparks. "Move!" he shouted. They ran through the back corridor as alarms began to echo across the factory district. More drones swarmed in, their red lights slicing through the dark. Ethan fired again, taking 2 down, but there were too many. Lyra clung to his arm, her small body shaking. "They're everywhere." "Keep running!" They burst through a side door into the night. Ahead was a wide drainage tunnel leading toward the wastelands. Ethan pushed her inside and followed. The tunnel was damp and cold, filled with echoes of their footsteps. Lyra's breathing was fast, scared. Ethan could hear the drones buzzing above the surface. After what felt like hours, they finally emerged far beyond the city walls. The barren land stretched endlessly under the stars. Ethan stopped, panting. "We should be safe here, for now." Lyra looked up at the night sky. The stars of Thyron 4 reflected in her eyes like tears. "I've never been this far from the city," she whispered. "Get used to it," Ethan said, smiling faintly. "We'll have to stay off their radar for a while." They found a small cave in the cliffs nearby. Ethan set up the generator again, and its soft hum filled the silence. He began connecting wires to the crystal, trying to stabilize its energy core. Lyra sat beside him, watching every move. "Will it work?" "I don't know," he admitted. "But if this thing really has human tech inside, maybe I can trick it into running again." She pulled something else from her bag, a small hollow photo. It showed her mother smiling, holding a tiny Lyra in her arms. The mother's eyes were bright, full of warmth. "She used to tell me stories about humans," Lyra said softly. "She said they were brave, but sometimes too kind for their own good." Ethan chuckled. "Yeah, that sounds about right." Then his scanner beeped again, this time louder. The crystal pulsed, its glow growing stronger. The air around them shimmered slightly. Ethan stared at the readings. "It's reacting to something." Lyra leaned closer. "To what?" He swallowed. "To me. To my human DNA. It's designed to bond with a human life signature." Lyra's eyes widened. "That's why the authority wants it. They can't use it without a human." Ethan looked up at her. "And now they know I'm helping you." Before she could answer, a faint sound echoed outside, a low rumble like engines. Lyra's face went pale. "They found us again." Ethan grabbed his weapon and shut off the generator. "Stay behind me." Through the cracks in the cave wall, lights appeared, red and blue, growing brighter. The enforcers had found them. Lyra whispered, voice trembling. "Ethan, if they take the crystal, my mother will die." He looked at her, at the fear in her eyes, at the faint light of the crystal glowing between her hands. He made a decision. "Then we don't let them take it." As the first explosion rocked the cave entrance and dust filled the air, Ethan pulled her close and whispered, "Hold on, kid. Things are about to get messy." The night sky above Thyron 4 exploded with red flashes as the enforcers' dropships descended. Dust and fire rolled across the barren cliffs, shaking the ground beneath Ethan's boots. He pulled Lyra deeper into the cave as energy blasts struck outside. The walls trembled. Shards of rock fell from the ceiling. "Ethan, they're coming," Lyra cried, clutching her glowing crystal. "I know," he said, grabbing his tool bag and blaster. "We can't stay here. We need to move now." They ran through the narrow tunnels, the air hot with smoke. Behind them, metallic footsteps echoed. The enforcers were closing in, their scanners cutting through the dark. "Split up," Ethan shouted. "They're tracking my human signal. I'll lead them away." But Lyra shook her head. "No, you can't fight them alone." He turned, eyes hard. "I can buy you time. Find your mother. Use the crystal. Don't stop until you reach her." Tears filled her glowing eyes. "I can't leave you." Ethan knelt, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You have to." You said your mother's dying. That crystal's her only chance. Go, Lyra, run. For a moment she just stared at him, trembling. Then finally she nodded. She turned and disappeared into the shadows, her small footsteps fading away. Ethan took a deep breath, then faced the mouth of the tunnel. The first enforcer appeared. Tall, armored in black plates, a red visor glowing. Human mechanic. The voice boomed through a speaker. You are under arrest for treason against the Thyran authority. Ethan smirked and raised his blaster. Yeah? Come and get me. The cave burst into light. Blue plasma bolts flashed through the dark as Ethan fought back, his shots bouncing off armor. He ducked behind rocks, rolled to the side, fired again. Sparks flew. The enforcers advanced slowly, methodical, their weapons humming. Ethan's blaster overheated. He threw it aside and grabbed a wrench from his belt, swinging it with all his strength into an enforcer's helmet. The metal cracked. The soldier fell, but there were too many. Ethan ran deeper into the tunnels, throwing a flash charge behind him. The explosion shook the ground, filling the cave with blinding white light. The enforcers stumbled. He emerged into the open desert, gasping for breath. The horizon glowed faintly with the twin moons. He looked around. No sign of Lyra. Good, she'd escaped. He stumbled toward the ruins in the distance, the old human research facility. Maybe she was heading there too. Meanwhile, Lyra ran as fast as her legs could carry her. Her lungs burned. The crystal pulsed wildly in her hands, reacting to her fear. Every beat of its light seemed alive, guiding her through the darkness. She reached the base of a broken cliff and saw it, a domed structure half buried in the sand. The human lab. Her mother was inside. Lyra crawled through a shattered window and dropped into a corridor filled with dust. Old human signs covered the walls. Bioenergy division. Authorized personnel only. The air smelled of rust and memory. She ran down the hallway until she found a room glowing with dim blue lights. There, on a cot surrounded by old machines, lay her mother, frail, breathing shallowly, her silver skin pale and cold. Mother, Lyra cried, rushing to her side. The woman's eyes fluttered open. Lyra? I found it, she said, showing her the crystal. The medicine, I have it. We can fix you. Her mother smiled weakly. My brave little one. You shouldn't have come back. They'll find you. I don't care, Lyra said fiercely. Ethan helped me. He said we can make it work again. Her mother frowned. Ethan, the human? Yes. He's trying to protect me. The woman's eyes filled with sorrow and pride. Then he is a rare kind. Humans always were. She coughed weakly. Listen to me, Lyra. The crystal needs a human life source to activate. That's why I couldn't use it. It must connect to a human heart and to their living energy. Without that, it's only light. Lyra froze, her breath catching. But that means, her mother nodded slowly. If a human connects to it, it will heal me. But it will take from him what it gives to me. Lyra's hands trembled. No, we can't do that. I won't let anyone die for us. Her mother smiled sadly. Then perhaps it's too late, child. Outside, the sound of engines roared again. The enforcers had tracked Ethan to the lab. He stumbled through the doorway, bleeding from a wound on his shoulder, smoke still clinging to his clothes. Ethan! Lyra ran to him. He smiled weakly. You found her. She nodded, tears in her eyes. But the medicine? It needs you. It can only work with a human. He looked past her at the dying alien woman. Figures, Lyra grabbed his sleeve. You'll die if you do this. He knelt down to her level, wiping a tear from her cheek. Lyra, your mother deserves to live. You both do. No, she cried. There has to be another way. He shook his head. Sometimes there isn't. Sometimes you just do the right thing because it's right. Behind them, heavy footsteps echoed down the hall. The enforcers were inside. Ethan turned to the machines, quickly connecting wires and reactivating the old human systems. Sparks flew as ancient circuits came alive again. The blue crystal floated into the chamber, pulsing brighter and brighter. Ethan... Lyra's voice broke. Please don't. He smiled gently. Hey, remember when I said humans are stubborn? She nodded, sobbing. Good. Now you'll never forget it. He placed his hand on the crystal. Instantly, a beam of light burst from it, wrapping around his body. The air filled with a deep hum, a living sound. Energy surged through him, burning like fire. The machines came alive. The chamber glowed with pure blue light. Lyra covered her face as the brightness filled the room. Her mother's body lifted slightly off the bed, the color returning to her skin. The monitors beeped faster, stronger. "Ethan!" Lyra screamed. He was shaking, his eyes glowing faintly blue now. "It's working," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Take care of her." Then, with a blinding flash, the crystal shattered. The light faded. When Lyra opened her eyes, her mother was breathing normally, alive, healed. But Ethan lay motionless beside the machine, his body pale and still. Lyra crawled to him, tears streaming down her face. "Ethan, wake up!" "Please." Her mother knelt beside her, touching the human's face with trembling hands. "He gave everything. His life became the medicine." Lyra sobbed uncontrollably, holding his hand. The faint warmth began to fade. She whispered, "He said humans were kind, but I didn't know they were this brave." Hours later, the enforcers entered the lab. They found no fight left and only silence. Their leader stepped forward, scanning the room. The machines were destroyed. The crystal was gone. On the bed lay the alien woman, alive. Beside her, a small alien child clutched a human's lifeless hand. "By the stars," one soldier whispered. "He used it." He actually used it. The commander stared for a long time. Then slowly he removed his helmet. "No one touches them," he said. "We leave this place. But sir, do you not see?" The commander said softly, "This human just saved one of ours. Today, we've seen what they really are." He turned and walked away. Years passed. The war between humans and the Thyran never came. In fact, peace slowly began to grow, fragile but real. The story of the human mechanic who gave his life to save an alien mother spread across the stars. They called him Ethan Cole, the human who healed a world. In the market streets of Elvara, now rebuilt and filled with color, a small shop stood near the edge of the square. Toys hung from its shelves. Carved birds, stars, and tiny figures made of polished metal. Behind the counter stood Lyra, older now, her silver hair tied back, her eyes bright. Children gathered around her, laughing, buying her toys. She always smiled when she handed them out, because on the bottom of every toy she carved one word: Ethan. One evening, as the sun set, a small boy looked up at her. "Miss Lyra, who is Ethan?" he asked. She looked toward the sky where the twin moons glowed softly and whispered, "He was a human. The kindest I ever knew." The boy frowned. "Is he gone?" She smiled sadly. "No, humans like him never really go. They become stories." Outside, the wind blew gently through the market, carrying the smell of new life and the faint hum of ships passing above. And somewhere, among the stars, perhaps a little piece of Ethan's spirit still drifted. In the machines, in the wind, in the quiet hearts of those who remembered him. Because sometimes, the greatest medicine is not made of light or science. It's made of human kindness.